one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Welcome.
All right, I don't have any green cards up here, do I, Rachel? Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak this morning? Anyone? No? Okay. Then I will move on to number 3, which is awards and recognition. And our first presentation today is a great story, especially for this time of the year. All of the PSTA employees are special members of our staff. We couldn't do what we do without them. But we'd like to highlight one, Ms. Barbara Izeri, who exemplifies how we all should look out for each other. Barbara, are you here? Please come forward. Jeff? Good morning. Barbara's here, and I think you have several of your passengers with you this morning, don't you?
We have Hopeton and Judy here this morning. Good morning, Board. It's
Welcome.
We have a special, as the chairperson Janet Long said there, we have a special event that we've been witnessing for the last couple months with regards to one of our customers. And it all happened because of the Route 11, and I wanted to share that with you this morning. It's a great thing, and I want you to see a video that we put together, which will describe what's been going on, if you would, please.
I like your t-shirt. Oh, nice.
This is where I come to relax. And then I go home and I have to wash, cook, and clean, and that's work. My name is Barbara. I'm a PSTA bus driver for the last 16 years. They say if you like your job, you never worked a day in your life. Well, that's kind of what I feel. I'm in awe that 16 years has gone by that fast. This is where I come to relax. And then I go home and I have to wash, cook, and clean, and that's work. I pay attention. I like people, so it makes it easy. There's a gentleman, which was Herb, would get on the bus, and I noticed he was a little frail, very tall, very slim, and he would get down and he'd struggle with those bags. So I said to Herb on the bus, "What's your address? I'll bring you a cart." So I brought over Herb a cart, and then when I got there, he could barely walk through the garbage. He kind of shuffled through the garbage to get to the door. It was like 2 feet deep. He looked like, I guess the word could be forlorn. He just looked so dragged out, run down, beat up, no family, no children, never married. So I looked at Herb and I said, "Herb, do you want help?" As I've asked others, and sometimes people will say, "No, I'm comfortable." He said, "I would love help. I'll call some friends." But everybody seemed to be busy. So that's when it started with Judy and Hopeton. And they gave me their numbers that day. And I said, "I'll be over that next Saturday." And that's when the 3 of us all went over there.
And we went in. I take a deep breath. I like, oh my God, I never seen this before. And we like break up in team.
We got our bags. We just started, put our gloves on and just started picking up. And then bags full, okay. And it was just so crazy. It was like a family working together, and it was just so neat. And before you know it, then it's like, oh, there is a floor down here.
So now we go and visit, and we keep on top of Herb. But I know Herb appreciates it, and I couldn't think of a better person.
It's almost like we adapt, Mr. Herb.
Well, God bless them and thank them for helping me out the way they did. It was pretty bad. I had a lot of trash around and just didn't know how to get rid of it. The nicest things that have occurred to me since I've been in Florida. Some people are like that. They love to help people.
So that's how that all began, just by paying attention to somebody on the bus that, might need some help. If people just take a minute to stop and think or stop and help, because the motto is, and like I taught Herb and Judy, see something, say something. If you see someone without a smile, give him yours. You might just change his life. You might just change his day. And if you can help, then do it. Help. Simple things.
publicly thank Barbara and Hopeton and Judy for their assistance in that touching video that we just saw. And certainly, we appreciate their efforts. I'd like Brad and Janet to come up for a photo, please. And Vince, I hear you ride their bus, Barbara's bus, don't you, sir? I do. Good. All right, so maybe we'll have a comment on it. Right up here for, if you want to stand right up there.
Very good.
That was such a great story, and Good Samaritans all around. So I think we have Elizabeth Olden in the audience, do we, to come forward and give the Transit Riders Advisory Committee report?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chairwoman Long, Mr. Miller, and esteemed board members. The TRAC met on November 19, 2019. We held our annual election of officers, and I'm pleased to announce that the new TRAC chair is Duncan Kovar, with Chelsea Anderson as vice chair. Since my term has expired, this is my last duty as TRAC chair. It was an honor to serve the committee and help PSTA provide the best service to riders throughout Pinellas County. The committee heard the inspiring Route 11 Good Samaritan story about bus operator Barbara Irizarry and passengers Hopeton and Judy helping fellow passenger Herb. Their act of kindness shows how much PSTA bus driver Barbara Irizarry cares for her passengers. Henry Lukasik presented the proposed plans for the in-route electric bus charging station, which you will vote on later this morning. Nicole Dufa also shared PSTA's successful agency-wide participation in the Great American Teach-In at Pinellas County Schools, which reached over 1,500 students. The next track team will be held January 21st at 4 p.m., and as always, board members are welcome to attend. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And the local coordinating board report, Brad?
Okay, you want to?
Oh, sorry.
Good morning, everybody. So the local coordinating board, the LCB, met on November 19th in the Fort Pinellas offices. Corey Gray with the Pinellas County Planning Department gave a presentation on Census 2020, which I know PSTA is working with the county on. Of particular interest to the LCB group was information on reaching out to transportation disadvantaged communities throughout the county. Mr. Gray will contact PSTA to explore partnering in this effort. The LCB then discussed and approved the annual Community Transportation Coordinator Evaluation, which is essentially an annual state requirement to have PSTA be audited for how we handle transportation disadvantage. The audit was very positive. Use of text, email, and in-person surveys conducted throughout the year was discussed. One customer surveyed for the CTC evaluation said he was offended by the use of the word disadvantaged. And this led to a discussion of the term, resulting in a successful motion and vote by the LCB to recommend to the TD Commission to have the name changed to Transportation Advantaged Program instead. That's kind of interesting. Ross Silvers reported that the PSTA hosted a meeting led by David Darm, the new executive director of the TD Commission in Tallahassee, to explore future iterations of the Advantage Ride, which will cease operation at the end of this month due to the completion of the pilot testing program. The next LCB meeting will take place on February 18th at 9:15. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And Commissioner Eggers, are you prepared with the?
I am.
I knew you would be.
Well, first of all, I just wanted to thank Barbara, Judy, and Hopeton for that incredible story. It really puts things in perspective as far as this time of the year, really any time of the year, to help each other out, but that was a beautiful, beautiful story. At Forward Pinellas on November 13th, we did adopt the Advantage Pinellas Plan, which was really the first time we've kind of coordinated transportation, transit, land use all into one plan. So it was really exciting. It's the 2045 long-range plan for Pinellas County. It's a long-term view of how funding and prioritization of transportation projects for the next 25 years will be handled, with a plan to adopt every 5 years, a new plan to adopt every 5 years during that 25-year period. Forward Pinellas staff presented the 2019 Trends and Conditions Report, which is updated every 2 years, and looks at a variety of data points on both land use and transportation. Highlights include a 43-mile new miles of trail countywide since 2013 and growth in transit-supported development patterns. Points to work on include a 3.6% rise in crashes and a 7% rise in fatalities over a 4-year period from 2014 to 2018. So a lot of work still to be done. Forward Pinellas is currently looking for safety ambassadors for its Vision Zero effort. The Vision Zero is an international effort focused on eliminating deaths on our roadways that we were just talking about, including vulnerable road users like pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorcycle riders. More information on that effort will be coming in January. In partnership with the City of St. Petersburg and the Florida Department of Transportation, Forward Pinellas is beginning work on a downtown mobility study for St. Petersburg that will complement existing and planned transit service as the city continues to grow and redevelop. Forward Pinellas is having a board work session on January 24th right here at PSTA at 9 a.m. And that's all we have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Eggers. Very nice. And then, so I will give you the T-BARTA report. We met at the airport the last time we had well, actually, we had a meeting here, and we had a meeting at the airport, and it was really interesting to meet in a public space like that. So I'm not sure we'll be doing that again, because they had no capability for streaming or mics. We didn't have microphones, but one of the things that we did talk about was the line of credit that we are going to be getting from Pilot Bank for $375,000. And we also are considering maybe not having the T-BARTA meeting every single month, but every other month. And what else did we talk about? I have a lot of information here about the line of credit, but I'm not sure that that's not just in the weeds in terms of what you all would like to hear. So let me, let me just talk about our legislative update and the fact that we did authorize a performance increase of 3% for our CEO. We had a legislative update from RSA, our state advocacy group, and we are working hard to ensure that we will receive the appropriation from the legislature to continue ensuring that our financial position is strong. And I'm happy to say that, you know, we have about approximately $13 million in open grants that we're working on. at T-BARTA, and I look forward very soon, and maybe hopefully at the end of this next year, to having a pilot project that we can actually turn the ground on to provide regional transportation for our citizens. T-BARTA has a commuter service program, and they focused a lot on a presentation that was made called Pick My Kid. And it's a service that T-BARTA offers for parents to be able to have their children taken to school and picked up from school, and it's all done through an app on your phone. And so I urge you, all of you who might be listening today, if you're interested in that, to contact either PSTA or T-BARTA, and we can put you in touch with the folks there. And that's the end of my report today. Thank you. Any questions? No? Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just out of curiosity, what, the line of credit you were talking about, and don't get too deep in the weeds, but was there a specific project that you were working on to need that? Because you got funding from the legislature for the T-BARTA. Just out of curiosity, it's an odd amount of $300,000 or whatever.
Well, and maybe Debbie, our financial director for PSTA, you know, we have a memorandum of understanding between PSTA and T-BARTA. But we had put some RFPs out over the course of the year, 2 of them, I believe, right, Debbie, for $1 million?
That's correct. We've put out 2 RFPs for T-BARTA. There's always a timing difference between when the money is expended and when FDOT, which is their biggest grantor, provides the money, reimburses the money back. So a line of credit is needed in order to pay vendors on a timely basis. So we went out with 2 RFPs. The first one, we got no response, and people said it was too small. So then we made it $1 million, and then we didn't get any responses, and it was still either too small, the financials from all the other years were not strong, you know, different things. So we received an unsolicited proposal from Pilot Bank that's going to be discussed in great detail at the next T-BARTA Finance Committee meeting. So at this moment, without their board approval, but it looks very good.
One of the things that made it so difficult at T-BARTA and why we crafted the memorandum of understanding between them and PSTA is because they have to spend the money before they can get the money. And they had no cash up front, and had, over the course of the 10 years before they did the new legislative reorganization of T-BARTA, they had depleted all the dollars that the state had given them.
And the state just last year funded T-BARTA, wasn't it
Correct.
significant?
Yes, $1.5 million. Yeah. But again, we have to spend it before you can get it, which makes it a little difficult. For those of you that don't serve on a lot of the transportation committees, transportation funding is very difficult and comes from many, many different pots. Commissioner Eggers and those that serve on Forward Pinellas understand that, you know, when you start talking about all those different pots of money and they're all restricted for one thing or another, you have to really be very precise about how you keep records on all of that. And now we have a CEO that's really doing a good job, and thanks to Debbie and her staff, we've gotten ourselves out of the ditch financially, and things are looking pretty good for T-BARTA right now. I'm happy to report. All right? Okay, so you've all had a chance to see the consent agenda, I believe, so if I could have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve?
Thank you. Do we have, and we have a second? Is there any discussion? No discussion? All right, then Rachel, would you please open the voting card? I'm sorry? I'm missing yours. I don't have, oh, here we go. It just popped up. Thank you. Okay. And that brings us to our first action item, number 6. Mr. Miller, would you like to discuss the nominating committee's recommendations, please?
I would.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Long. And before we look ahead to the nominating committee's recommendations, I would like to thank you, our chair, for the past 2 years, and congratulate you on the success of PSTA under your leadership. Yay, for you. Not only will you see definite success a little bit later when Trish comes up and presents our year-end scorecard results, but the energy and effort that you bring to each and every day has propelled this organization forward. I'm grateful that you will continue to lead our PSTA Legislative Committee and participate on our Executive Committee. Now, looking forward to 2020, the PSTA Nominating Committee met on November 14th, and the Nominating Committee Chair is Commissioner Joe Barkley, and also has Commissioners Long, Gerard, and Rice on it. The Nominating Committee recommends the following officers for PSTA to preside starting with the January board meeting. Chair, Commissioner Joe Barkley. Vice Chair, Commissioner Pat Gerard. Secretary Treasurer Gina Driscoll. And with Commissioner Janet Long as immediate past chair and Commissioner Dan Saraki, these 5 will comprise the PSTA Executive Committee for 2020. Additionally, as you can see in your packet, the nominating committee recommended the following committee appointees. To the Legislative Committee as an alternate, Commissioner Dan Saraki. To the Planning Committee, Commissioner Darden Rice, and as an alternate, Commissioner Keith Seville. To the Nominating Committee, Commissioner Richard Bennett. So thank you all for volunteering to serve on those committees. That concludes the recommendations. I don't know if the Nominating Committee Chair Barkley has any comments or would like to make a motion.
No, I would make a motion that the recommendation of the nominating committee be approved.
And before we have a second on that, are there any other nominations that anyone would like to make here? Seeing none, may I have a second?
Okay.
All right, we have a second. Rachel, would you open the voting card, please? Oh, our attorney is telling me that we need public comment on our nominations. Anyone from the public wish to speak about our nominations for the board next year, for the board officers? No? All right, thank you. Please cast your votes. And that was a unanimous decision. Congratulations, everyone. So for those of you that are new serving on the executive committee, I want to thank you for offering your time and your energy and your expertise. You'll find it to be a lot of moving pieces to get your head wrapped around. So as we move forward, our second action item is to approve the contract to install our electric bus charging infrastructure. Brad, would you like to introduce this item?
I would.
Thank you.
And there is a PowerPoint. I don't know if we can pull that up, just to quickly walk through this. So this is an action item to install a fast charging en route charger right here at the PSTA Transit Center for our electric bus fleet. Just a little bit of recap. PSTA has 2 buses in operation. We've had those in operation for a year now, and they've been incredibly successful. They're operating on the Looper service in downtown St. Petersburg. 4 more are on order right now, which will be delivered next year. So that'll be a total of 6. The way those buses are all charged is here at night in the garage. They're plugged in to what we call, they're essentially slow chargers that sort of stream the charge overnight. And that has been working just fine. And we have enough of those chargers for the 6 that we will have. What this action item is for our one and only fast charger, which which is called en route because it'll be charging buses as they're on their route in service. It's essentially a plate that's going to be installed in the ground right out here at the transit center, and it's going to use some pretty neat what's called induction charging technology, where the bus and the plate will not actually touch, but the batteries will be charged through a system. I have no idea how it works, but I know it works on your toothbrush, and it works on, sometimes you can charge your phone that way. This one's just a little more powerful. Don't put your phone on the plate when it's installed. Essentially, you can see there in the very top picture, there's a sort of a circle that's already on the buses that we have. And then when that comes over the plate, there is like a key that makes sure that it communicates with each other and knows that it's an electric bus, and then the charging begins. And it charges very quickly. In just about 10 minutes time, it can sort of top off the charge on the batteries. So what the contract that you have before you will do, we've already purchased and we have the actual charging equipment here at PSTA. This is just the installation contract. So they're basically going to dig a hole in the ground and put the charging equipment in it and install it. It's going to be located right here at PSTA at our, what we call our lay-by, where the buses come in and out on the west side of the property. During the period of construction, starting in February, we're going to have to move the transit center temporarily into our parking lot. And so we're going to put some shelters there where you can see, and essentially, basically move the transit center. The buses will come in that way. And then for a period of time, that entrance, if you're coming to a PSTA meeting, that entrance off of 28th Street will be closed to cars because only buses will come in and out there, and you'll have to come in off Shared Drive. So looking beyond these six and this plan, this charger is funded, thankfully, by Pinellas County's appropriation of BP settlement funds, BP oil settlement funds for this charger. And it can also be used sort of in a pinch or as needed to charge buses overnight. We could just drive a vehicle over there and charge with this fast charger as well. But beyond that, to the extent that we are going to be purchasing additional electric vehicles, and I believe over time that is where the trend is going, is toward more and more electrification of all kinds of vehicles, we're going to need to have some serious, significant upgrades to the just amount of power that comes to this facility. This facility was designed 14 years ago, or more than 14 years ago, to have the electricity power to power the lights and computers, essentially, and not the whole fleet. And so to add that power, we're working very closely with Duke Energy right now, and Henry Lukasik has done a great job in planning this out with Duke Energy. Obviously, Duke stands to benefit significantly by selling us a lot more power in the future than they have been. And so they have opportunities to help us invest in that infrastructure. We're conducting a plan right now that will come back and we'll present to the board on exactly what infrastructure is needed at this facility, and it might even be in this general region by Duke Power. We're also looking at the possibility, likely possibility, that we can add solar panels to the roofs or somewhere to the PSTA facility and that can provide additional power as well to PSTA. So with that, Al Burns and his team did a good procurement, and the recommendation that the Finance Committee also reviewed and recommends is to approve a construction contract with this A&K Energy Conservation, Inc. to install this at a cost not to exceed $192,000. This A&K company has has done a lot of work with Duke Energy. They're sort of a specialty in this. So that's the recommendation. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Questions, anyone? Commissioner Edgards?
And just, all things being equal, what's the time that would be necessary to charge, the slow way versus the fast way? So if a bus came in, whatever depleted on the battery, how much faster would it?
Morning, Henry.
Oh, good morning. Henry Lukasik, Director of Maintenance. To answer your question, so I'll use a real-world example. Typically, with the two buses that we have come back, they start off at 100% state of charge, and generally they come back at about 40%. So the total battery capacity on these electric buses is about 350 kilowatt hours, so just take 40% of that. So that's how many kilowatts that we have to charge back. Now, being said, at an 80 kW plug-in charger rate, that takes approximately 3.5 to 4 hours. So 80 kW is the plug-in, also known as conductive. The en route inductive is rated for a 250 kW, so it's that much larger in capacity. If we were to take the same bus and place it out there and use it as a charging similarity to what we would use with the plug-in, that time would probably be reduced down to about an hour-ish. Since it's in an en route application, the goal of it is that as more electric buses are deployed, that as they stop at the lay-by for transfers and layovers, that it is like a boost charge, continually topping off. The bottom line goal is that for every round trip that the bus makes on whatever route it is on, is that the en route charger is able to return what it consumed on that round trip, therefore not creating a charge deficit, as we call it, over the course of time. We're confident that will occur. We will not enter a charge deficit. There's also something that we will be studying once the charger comes online, is how much additional charge can be captured at each layover, so that instead of not attaining a charge deficit, it would actually be net zero, but actually adding to it.
One other question, is it independent of the power grid for this building here, so that if something were to happen here, that we could still send them out there to be charged?
Yes, so Duke Energy has installed a pole-mounted 500 amp transformer, which is connected and wired to the Gateway substation, which is about a quarter mile to the south.
So literally, you could take all 6 of those buses and charge them overnight with that out there and get them all up to speed if you had to do that.
A redundant site, yes, that is something we're looking at, and we'll be collecting that data to see just how much more or quicker that charger can charge buses.
Thanks, Henry.
Thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner Justice.
I think Commissioner Driscoll was first, but.
She doesn't have a light on. Do you have your? Yes, I have a few questions. Well, how about you hit your mic?
I did. All right, I had hit it. It must have run out of time.
Right.
Yeah. The act of pulling up to the charger and stopping, is there an indicator on the dashboard of the bus, so to speak, that shows when it's actually connected, since it's not physically connecting?
Yes.
That shows the driver that they're
Yes, there is.
in the right spot and that it is working?
Yes, it is. So as the bus stops over the charge plate, there is a console up above the operator that they must push a button that says start. And then it goes through a 6-stage process, which is one, connection, communicates from bus to charger. 2, there is alignment. 3, there is the start of the actual charge cycle. And then the rest of the 3 steps are initiation of the charge cycle, and then the actual charging cycle itself, and the last is the disconnection process.
Okay.
At any time, should the operator need to leave, they are able to just put the bus in drive, and the charging process will automatically cease.
Okay. So there's not a great deal of training that's
Nope, the only training that's involved is alignment of the bus. We plan to do that with basically a guideline that the operator can follow as they're pulling up, and then basically a stop line so that the plate is directly over the primary plate.
Okay. And is this for one charging plate?
Yes.
Okay. And will that plus the slow one, the slow overnight ones, will that be enough to keep all 6? Then once we're up to 6, are we going to have enough charging stations between the slow and the fast to keep everything moving?
With what we have now, yes.
Okay.
For the 6.
Right.
Beyond the 6, we will probably need more.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And then, can you talk a little bit more about the solar panels? It sounds like that's not something that we would start with, but we're leaving it open to adding them later?
Yeah, so Debbie Leas and our project management team have been looking at the possibility of putting solar panels on the roofs of all the PSTA buildings. One, to replace the existing power that we already get, and 2, to add power to the facility for the use of charging electric buses in the future. We've had a number of meetings with solar panel companies and finance companies. Kind of, some of you are probably familiar where you can, there's lots of companies that will allow you to finance the installation of solar panels and pay it off over time with the savings that you'll get in your utility bills. And so we're looking at something similar to that, some kind of arrangement with that. It's a little more complicated with our building, I understand, where there has to be an assessment of our roof. We have metal roofs, and there may be, we have to just ensure that the panels can be adhered to them in hurricane winds and things like that, so that all work. But hopefully in early 2020, we'll have a presentation on a plan on getting solar panels installed. And then that will obviously be key to include in the analysis that Henry and Duke Energy are doing on the overall power needs at this facility moving forward.
Okay, so it's a separate project but related.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, got it. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Justice.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There you go.
There we go. Yeah.
So this, and just correct me if my memory is wrong, but this is a change in the original plan where we were going to have this station, this charging facility downtown as part of the Looper or part of the downtown electric bus, correct?
Correct. That was the original idea.
And that charging station that was going to be downtown, that was the one that was closer to $600,000?
Well, the 192 is just the installation. If you add the 192 plus the actual cost of buying the charger, which we already bought, you get to the 5.
Yeah, so the breakout is, the total was 589, 375,000 for the physical charging equipment. 22,000 has been put forth for architectural and engineering design, and the 192 is the remaining balance of the funding.
Okay. And so the determination is it's better to have the site here rather than on the downtown. That was...
Yeah, it's actually fortuitous because the electric buses have been working better than expected, so there's no... Plus, there was more challenges to installing this charging equipment in an area that PSTA didn't own, in a road in St. Petersburg, and so having it here, where it can serve many routes rather than just the one Looper route, and the fact that the Looper service has not shown the need for supplemental charging as it completes its route, makes this a much better location.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Commissioner Albritton?
Yes. My question had to do with the cost. I see in the we had 2 bids on this from contractors, and we're going with the AK Energy Conservation. Is that 166? But we're doing a not to exceed for 192, so I didn't, I mean, you kind of explained the total financials as far as the $375K for the charging unit itself and the design. It leaves 192, but are we actually going to get that installed? I guess the installation is that we're having to cut it and put the concrete and then set it in and hook it to the power. Is that the contract for 166? Is that what I'm saying?
So the board action item is a not to exceed of the 192, which is the remaining balance of what's left in the fund. A&K Energy Conservation did submit a bid for 166. The reason for the 192 is basically for some contingency in case we run into some unforeseen site conditions there. I don't expect that to happen. We did spend a lot of time researching and doing GPR to make sure that there were no utility conflicts. Should the full 192 not be needed, then certainly that's a discussion for a later time once the project is completed to determine what to do with those remaining balance funds.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And next in the queue is Commissioner Schulman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Henry, you shared that the inductive charger is, the cost of the charger itself is $375,000, or that Brad may have shared that. What is the cost for the conductive overnight charger?
That would be complementary to what we're installing at the lay-by?
No, for what we have on site for overnight charging, a plug-in charger.
So the ones here at the depot are approximately $10,000.
Okay. So, and I understand that there's a speed difference. I understand that there is a operational difference with drivers being able to just charge by pulling up versus having to get out and plug in. But one of the concerns I have, and I know we already own this one charger, is that, you know, our current fleet is returning to headquarters with a 40% charge. And so I wonder over time, as we start adding more buses on different routes, if it actually makes more sense to have plug-in chargers along the way at our other time points, other terminals where we can add an additional charge versus having buses come back here at a much greater cost. So over time, as we start using this this new charging pad here, I think it'd be really interesting to really get the statistics and numbers on how the buses are performing, how much charge do they need. You know, I'm not as much concerned if they come back with 100% charge. That's not as big of an issue, but operationally, I'd like to be able to see the electric buses used more throughout the county, and having some depot chargers along the way. We could add a lot more depot chargers for the cost of an inductive charger. So just like to see that data over time. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Schulman. Commissioner Barkley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to say that the Finance Committee met at our last meeting, and after a detailed staff presentation and discussion, the Finance Committee voted 5-1 in favor of recommending approval of a contract with A&K Energy Conservation for the construction and installation of the electric bus charging station, and therefore I would like to make a motion to approve as presented.
Second. Questions, anyone? What was the dissension, Commissioner Barkley, about? Do you remember?
You have to ask Commissioner Eggers.
Oh, was it you, David?
Yeah, there was some additional questions.
Yeah, there were some additional questions that I needed answered, and Brad provided them to me at
Oh.
our one-on-one, so I'm good.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, so we have a motion, and a second. Rachel, would you please open the card? And public comment? Do we have any public comment? Anyone? No? All right. Excellent. And that that passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
There are no, I think Trish, where is she? I know I saw her here.
Yeah.
Trish Collins is going to come up and speak to us about our new scorecard results that she revealed at our last executive committee meeting. Seems like we had a very successful year, right, Trish?
We certainly did.
So welcome, please continue.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Trish Collins. I'm the Director of Human Resources here. I am presenting the fiscal year 19 end of the year scorecard, which you all have at your places. It's this page. Everyone have that. And I'll start. Oh, thank you. Oh, that's better. You have this at your places. And I'll start just by way of orientation to help everyone navigate through what you're looking at. On the far left side of the scorecard are the 5 strategic areas that we measure our performance through. So you'll see listed on the far left side, community support, financial stability, customer satisfaction, employee engagement, and commitment to performance. The next column is the individual metric code. That just makes it easy to discuss and make sure that we're all understand which metric we're talking about. A short description of the metric is the following column, and then the goal that we were trying to achieve is listed as the performance goal. The next goal is how many points that goal is worth, and then our progress throughout the 4 quarters, how many points we earned based on our performance towards our goal. The final column on the far right is the year-to-date score, and especially as we're looking at the overall year-to-date performance following the 4th quarter, that is an important column at this point. The sheet attached to this page gives more information specifically about each and every metric, more detail about what was being measured and how it was being measured. So that's there for your reference as well. And I'll bring your attention to the bottom right corner. We have an overall score of 98 points for the full year. So we set ourselves with a goal of trying to achieve 100 points if we met all of our goals, and we were able to meet 98 points. This is really a result of all of our staff, from the individual employee level to the department level to the organizational level, rowing in the same direction towards a common understanding of our goals. This is the 2nd year now that we've been using this strategic tool, and it really is resulting in a higher level of performance and a more common, universal understanding throughout the organization of what it takes to be a leading agency. I'd like to present some of the highlights, some of the work behind the scores. This is a page of numbers, and they do demonstrate great performance, but I wanted to talk a little bit about what that performance was and bring out some of the reasons that we achieved such a high score throughout the year. I'd like to start with the first set of goals, our community support goals. There are many things that we measure to determine whether our community perceives PSTA as providing value to the community. And an important one, I'll draw your attention to Org 2. That's the number of funding partnerships. That is an agreement that we've entered into with another organization, whether it's a city or a community or another organization, to share funding on a project. I think, sharing funding is a very strong way to demonstrate that you believe that a project is worthwhile. And over the course of this year, we entered into partnerships to share funding on projects. This is a long list with the City of St. Pete, the City of Dunedin, Pinellas County, the City of Clearwater, the Clearwater Downtown Development Board, and the City of Tarpon Springs. And those shared funding projects ranged from building new shelters to providing spring break service to funding in support of our new BRT. So that was a very successful demonstration of the value that our community perceives that we have. I'll draw your attention to our second set of goals under financial stability. And if you take a look at Org 5, that is our annual budget variance. As you know, we started this year with a planned, approved budget deficit, and through the strong management of our finances, we've been able to close that gap and actually end not with a deficit, but instead with an operating performance surplus. I know. I hope we have that on camera somehow.
That's called magic.
Yes. For our third set of goals for customer satisfaction, this performance area is measured entirely through direct surveys to our customers. So we are asking our customers, both on the fixed route and in the paratransit service, a host of questions about what they think about the service that we're providing. You may recall a couple of months ago we had a presentation on the full results of that survey. Very happy to share with you that we exceeded our goals for both paratransit and fixed service. And I will note, in fact, not only did we exceed our own goals, but we exceeded industry goals for customer service on both fixed route and paratransit. The next set of scores relate to employee engagement. As the HR director, this is obviously a very near and dear area for me. We launched many initiatives this year. We enhanced training for our managers and for our frontline transportation supervisors. We launched an employee newsletter to increase communication and employee recognition. We launched a 1,000,000-mile recognition to celebrate our longest serving drivers, which you just saw at a recent board meeting. We have increased collaboration between our management staff and the union on work scheduling. And we're able to negotiate an excellent contract last October that increased wages to a competitive level and provided groundbreaking incentives in the maintenance department to promote employees achieving industry certifications and improve their skills and their knowledge. Employee engagement, as we've talked about before, is very important not only as a way to ensure that your employees feel good while they're at work, but to drive bottom line results. And I can confidently say that our improved employee engagement did result in a higher engagement score and also in reduced employee turnover for the year, which we also measure on the scorecard. The last area that I'll touch on is our commitment to performance area. We measure two key things in this area. One is our peer benchmarking through the American Bus Benchmarking Group. Org 17 is a goal for us to improve in the metrics that we measure in that group where we are below the median for the group. We set a goal for ourselves to increase in at least 4 areas. We didn't quite meet that, but we did increase 3 key metrics that we benchmark with our peers. That was diesel fuel effectiveness, seat utilization, and I think very impressively our on-time performance, which improved by 5 percentage points over the year. That took a lot of work on behalf of our drivers and our management staff and our transportation department, and I think that's quite an achievement. The other thing that we measure in commitment to performance, Org 18, is our progress on the BRT project. This fiscal year 19, we were measuring the percentage of design completed. Again, we didn't quite meet our goals there, but I'm happy to say that we did hit 90% design completion by mid-November, and we are on track to have 100% design completion by the end of this month. So overall, this has been a fantastic year for us. Again, it's the result of staff throughout the organization from every level, from frontline employees to management, all understanding that what makes us a great agency, there's the other 2 slides. What makes us a great agency is to focus on community support, financial stability, customer satisfaction, employee engagement, and commitment to performance. You just approved for us going into the 3rd year using the strategic tool for 2020, and we'll continue to use it to drive our performance in all of our important areas. I'm happy to take any questions.
Great job.
Well, thanks. Great job, you guys.
Thank you so much, Trish, for all your hard work and effort on behalf of the board. I want to thank all of the staff that participated in the survey. And it has truly turned out to be a remarkable way to gauge the effectiveness of what we're doing and trying to do. So with that said, Commissioner Barkley?
Yeah, I see I have checkers in the room. I wanted to find out on Org 18, where we stand with the BRT program.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Mr. Barkley. The design, where we are, we hit 90% design milestone last month, and that is undergoing review, and we're actually finalizing 90%. Our design team is actually working towards 100%, and we hope to have that done by the end of this year. As far as the federal, we are continuing to work with the Federal Transit Administration as well to make sure we meet all their requirements for a grant agreement. And we've been having monthly calls with them. And from what FTA staff has been telling us is that we're doing tremendous progress in the design, also meeting a lot of their items on their standard checklist that they usually have us track.
So, Chris, does that mean that maybe by first quarter we should, this item should be, 18 should be getting close to turning green? Or we're farther down the line than that?
Sure. We'll certainly report on the progress of the design completion. Our goal for 2020 on the scorecard actually relates to construction. So our metric will begin measuring our progress towards the construction of the route.
All right. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And no one else has a question or a comment, anything? No? Well, all right. Thank you so much, Trish. Great job.
Thank you.
Future meeting subjects, Mr. Miller. Sorry.
Well, I did take a look at the future meeting subjects that are in your packet, and I noticed there's a number of really exciting maintenance-related procurements that are coming down the pike, and I'm just so sorry that Commissioner Eggers is going to be so upset to miss all that at the Finance Committees in 2020. But I would like to just highlight some and thank the board members for some activities that we've recently completed. The last 2 days, I have had the pleasure of being up in Tallahassee with Commissioners Gina Driscoll and Dan Saraki, as well as Whitney Fox on our staff, and we had a whole bunch of fantastically successful, I would call successful meetings with our state legislators yesterday. Thanks, led by our great legislative team at RSA. We met with Senator Brandis, as well as, well, I guess we tried to meet with the Senate Appropriations Committee, but chair, but he was unavailable. Met with Representative Sprouse as well as almost all of the Senator Roussan and almost the entire Pinellas delegation. Shared with them our legislative priorities, which are focused on transportation disadvantaged funding and electric buses. Those are the main two items that we discussed, and it was a great success. And I would certainly hope Commissioners Saraki and Driscoll can comment on that. I'd also like to thank just last week we had a very successful second Feeding Tampa Bay partnership with a lot of board members who attended. Commissioner Richard Bennett, Vince Cox, Mr. Saraki, Josh Schulman, and Joe Barkley all joined me in feeding now a record number of folks, most of who got to PSTA by riding the bus and then got food for their families. It was our second time doing it, but just as successful, or even maybe a bit more successful. It was actually kind of cold out there compared to the first time, which was ridiculously hot. Thank you all for helping us do that. I think it really shows the value that PSTA as a transportation provider for many, many people, maybe the only transportation that they have, is in this community. With that, I will just remind folks that we'll have a few refreshments out in the lobby right after the meeting is over, including, and I just want to throw in this joke before anyone else gets it from me because I copied it. We'll be celebrating Commissioner Eggers' 4 successful years on PSTA with some Eggers Nog. Egger Nog. That concludes my comments.
That's pretty funny, Brad. All righty. Any questions, comments about the legislative trip? Commissioner Saraki?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say that yesterday's event was a very educational experience for me, especially with being on this PSTA board only since June. Some of the meetings that I really enjoyed was the Chris Sproul's meeting. He was very open to us for our advancements and growth of the PSTA. One thing that was another meeting that I really enjoyed was Philip Miller, the Senate Infrastructure and Security. I've never met him before. I thought that meeting went really well. Jeff Brandis, he had a cold. It started out that he didn't want to shake our hand, and by the end of the meeting, Brad, you did an amazing presentation for the PSTA, and all of us, Gina and I, jumped in, and at the end of the meeting, he was honored to take our picture. He shook our hands, and he was very excited to be involved in helping out the PSTA, and I thought that meeting was great.
And now you're all going to get sick.
Right after the meeting, Brad and I ran to the bathroom. We also met with Ben Diamond. That was a fantastic meeting. He's really represents St. Petersburg. He was very involved in helping us out. Nick DeSiglia, met with him too. Great meeting. The last meeting was with Jennifer Webb, and that went really, really well with her also. So it was unfortunately, we didn't get to meet with Senator Travis Hudson. I'd never met him, and I wanted to meet with him yesterday, and that didn't work out. But it was a great meeting for the PSTA for our future, and that's all I had, Brad. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Driscoll.
Thank you. And just to add on to that, we did have some fantastic meetings, and overall, I left feeling like we really do have advocates in Tallahassee for the issues around PSTA that are important to us. As Brad mentioned, the helping out to improve our services for transportation disadvantage was a big topic. The TD late shift program is very well received, and we were able to remind everyone that as Pinellas County grows in population and in popularity, given our consistently high tourism numbers, we expect that momentum to continue, and with that comes a greater number of workers to serve our tourists and our residents, many of whom work odd hours, and programs like TD Late Shift help to make that connection. People in Tallahassee understand that. We also talked about being better partners through better compensation for our assistance with Medicaid and helping people get to their doctor's appointments. I think that we serve so many people in that significant way that really does help with maintaining a healthy Pinellas County. It's really, for me, that is a social justice issue, and I'm very proud that PSTA is so willing to be part of that solution. And then talking about electric buses and our great, innovative programs that we have and the efforts that we're making to be a greener PSTA really resonated with our legislators, and I feel confident that they understand the need for us to be more environmentally responsible while pushing to serve a greater part of our community. So, we received such a warm reception from those who represent us in Tallahassee that today I can stand here and tell you that I feel like we really do have great support. We just need to be mindful that communication and being vocal about what our needs are and finding that common ground with those who need to be led along a little bit. It has never been more important than it is right now for us here at PSTA. So, you know, having these trips is fantastic, but it's the work that we do in between the trips that's just as important. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone? No? Okay. Other business, Brad? No other business? Board member comments? Commissioner Seidel? Nothing? Commissioner Saraki?
I just want to say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to all of you. This has been a great educational experience for me, being on this board, and I want to thank you all for your leadership and your mentorship. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Cox?
And I say ditto to Danny.
Excellent. Commissioner Justice?
Happy holidays.
Thank you. Commissioner Barkley?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to say thank you to the commission for your confidence in me to serve and in the role of chair, and hope to be able to follow in our chair's shoes for this year and last year, and look forward to doing that. I also wanted to mention, going back to the feeding of the 5,000 there over the last couple of weeks. I think it was, a week ago we did that. We had a bus, PSTA bus, that had a wrap that someone in our wonderful PSTA enterprise had put on that bus. It was really super, and it gets the word out when that bus is traveling around the whole county. It gets the word out that PSTA really cares, and I was very proud to see that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Gerard?
Happy holidays, Happy New Year.
Thank you. Commissioner Eggers?
I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank all of the staff for the 4 or 5 years working with you, and it's been really a pleasure. Very professional group, and to this board, I wish you all the best in the coming year, and good health and lots of successes here at PSTA. And Merry Christmas, and have a great holiday. Get some rest, slow down a little bit, and we got a busy year ahead of us. So, thank you.
Commissioner Schulman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to congratulate those board members that are taking on new board positions for the new years. As well, I also wanted to thank Commissioner Eggers for his service. It's been educational sitting next to him and hearing his perspective on issues, and it will be missed. Thank you. And as a reminder, you can still attend Finance Committee meetings as a member of the board. So we'll be looking for you for those, for your input then. So, and happy holidays to all. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bennett?
I just want to repeat everyone else's comments. Happy holidays to everyone.
Thank you. Commissioner Albritton?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that Mrs. Irizarry's Good Samaritan story, what a holiday story that was. And that was very well presented, and also great job on the PSTA scorecard. Thank you to all the PSTA employees for doing that, and looking forward to groundbreaking on the BRT project next year, and we've got a lot of things going, so I'm looking forward to 2020. Thank you.
Excellent. Commissioner Driscoll?
Thank you, and I want to thank all of you, my fellow commissioners and the staff here, for such a fantastic first year for me as a member of this board. Your guidance has been just invaluable, and I could not be more proud to be part of this group and to represent St. Petersburg and PSTA as I'm out and about. I wanted to thank Commissioner Eggers for your service and for your guidance. Thanks to you, I know some new questions to ask going forward. So I appreciate what I have learned from you by listening this year. I do want to wish everyone a fabulous holiday season and a new year full of promise as we move forward together. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, I would like to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I hope you have time with your families and that you will be very blessed and joyful and successful in 2020. And also, I want to extend a special thank you to the staff who have worked so hard to make PSTA look so good in our community. And thank you, Brad, for your leadership, and I really am going to miss you, Commissioner Eggers, here, and your thoughtfulness on this board. And I wish you well in your new assignments that you'll be taking on next year. You're welcome. And so with that said, I wish Commissioner Barkley great success as he leads us forward in 2020 with some terrific accomplishments for PSTA and for our citizens. So that said, you're welcome. I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.
If you want to next time.
Have a good holiday, my friend.
I
will.
Thanks, yours too.
Try to get both of them.
I don't want you to like, be thinking like all warm and fuzzy.
It kind of depends on the date.
Happy holidays, Al. Hit it straight.